Welcome back. Please like and subscribe. It was a bright sunny morning. The birds were singing and the sun was shining. Prince knew what that meant. It was park day. He wagged his tail excitedly, barked at the door, and his tail thumped on the floor. "All right, boy, I'm coming," chuckled his human John. John clipped on Prince's lead, and they walked out the door. Prince was practically bouncing with joy. He loved the park. There were so many smells, so many other dogs to play with. It was a dog's paradise. John chuckled at Prince's enthusiasm. "Eager, aren't we?" he said, giving Prince a pat. Prince spotted his friend, a golden retriever named Buddy. Buddy was just as happy to see him. They greeted each other with playful barks and wags. Then they were off. They raced across the grass, chased each other's tails, and were two furry blurs of joy. John watched them with a smile, loving seeing Prince so happy. He pulled out his phone and snapped a few pictures of the two dogs playing. "They're quite a pair, aren't they?" a voice said from beside him. John looked up. It was the park ranger, Mr. Thompson. "They certainly are," John agreed. "They're inseparable at the park." Mr. Thompson chuckled. "It's good to see dogs enjoying themselves," he said. "It brightens up the park." John nodded in agreement. He couldn't have said it better himself. The game of chase ended. Prince and Buddy were both panting. They decided to take a break and went back to sniffing around the park. Prince's nose led him to a group of children throwing a frisbee. Prince loved frisbees. He wagged his tail hopefully and looked at the children with pleading eyes. One of the children, a little girl with pigtails, giggled. "Look, the doggy wants to play." She picked up the frisbee, threw it in the air. Prince watched the frisbee soar through the air, took off running, leaped into the air, and caught the frisbee in his mouth. He landed gracefully, trotted back to the children, and dropped the frisbee at their feet. The children cheered. Prince wagged his tail, proud of himself. After playing frisbee, Prince went back to Buddy. Buddy was digging a hole under a tree. "What are you doing?" Prince barked. Buddy looked up at him, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He had buried his favorite tennis ball in the hole and now was pretending to look for it. Prince loved this game. He started digging too, with all his might. Soon they had dug a huge hole, but there was no sign of the tennis ball. Buddy started whining. He couldn't remember where he had buried it. Prince barked encouragingly, knowing they would find it eventually. Just then, Mr. Thompson walked by, saw the two dogs and the giant hole, and chuckled. "Having a bit of trouble, are we?" he asked. Buddy whined again. Mr. Thompson leaned down, moved some dirt around with his foot, and there it was, the tennis ball! Buddy barked happily and grabbed his ball. Prince wagged his tail, glad the mystery was solved. The sun was high in the sky. It was getting hot. Prince was starting to feel the heat. He saw a group of dogs splashing around in the park's small pond. He loved water. Eagerly, he pulled on his lead, trying to drag John towards the pond. John laughed and said, all right, go on then." He unclipped Prince's lead. Prince didn't need to be told twice. He raced toward the pond and jumped in with a joyful splash. The other dogs welcomed him to their water party. They splashed each other with their paws and chased each other through the water. Prince felt happy and cool. He forgot all about the heat. He barked happily, spraying water everywhere, while John watched from the side, shaking his head and laughing, knowing he'd be giving Prince a bath later. After his swim, Prince decided to explore some more. He saw a little girl sitting on a bench, holding a small, fluffy dog in her lap. The dog looked scared and was shaking a little. Prince felt sorry for the little dog. He walked over to the bench cautiously and wagged his tail slowly. The little girl looked up and smiled shyly at Prince. "This is Coco," she said. "She's a bit scared of big dogs." Prince wagged his tail again and sat down gently in front of Coco. He lowered his head and let Coco sniff him. Coco seemed to relax a little, cautiously reached out and sniffed Prince's nose, and then Prince licked her ear gently. Coco wagged her tail, She wasn't scared anymore. The little girl beamed and exclaimed, "Look, Coco, you made a new friend." Prince wagged his tail, happy to have made a new friend. The afternoon flew by in a flurry of fun. Prince chased squirrels, played tug-of-war with Buddy, and even helped a little boy find his lost hat. He was having the best day ever. He was one tired but happy dog. As the sun started to set, John called him over. It was time to go home. Prince was sad to leave the park, but he knew he'd be back soon. He gave Buddy one last playful bark and trotted over to John. John clipped on Prince's lead. They walked out of the park, and Prince gave one last longing look at the playground. He sighed contentedly, already looking forward to his next park adventure. The walk home was peaceful. Prince trotted alongside John, sniffing at the familiar scents of their neighborhood. He was tired but still happy. He had had a wonderful day and he knew John had too. When they got home, John gave Prince a big hug and said, "You were a very good boy today, Prince." Prince wagged his tail. He knew he had been. He went to his water bowl and lapped up some water, then curled up on his bed. He was soon fast asleep, dreaming of chasing squirrels and splashing in the pond, dreaming of all the new friends he had made, dreaming of the joy and laughter of the park. He knew one thing for sure. Every day at the park was a tail-wagging adventure, and he couldn't wait for the next one. What will it be? What should Prince's next mission be? Tell us in the comments.